Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Nova with the Imagine USA Academy team, and in today's video I'm going to be setting up and scanning a full arch case using the Medit i900 scanner. In addition, we're going to touch on some of Medit's latest innovations with the i900, such as the touch interfaces, which allow the user to control the scanning process without the need for a mouse or keyboard, as well as the real-time haptics, which give immediate feedback to the user during the scanning process. Okay, so let's get right on into it. Before we even open up our Medit software, we want to make sure that all of our Windows updates are completed, as well as all of our GPU updates using the GeForce Experience app. Once all of our updates are completed, we can go ahead and open up our Medit Link software, which you see right here. On the left-hand side, we have 7 different tabs for the user to choose from. The first one that I wanted to discuss is the dashboard. The dashboard is going to give you some general information and statistics on your scanner, such as usage, cloud storage, scanning time, etc. The next one is going to be our case box. The case box is where the user is going to manage all of their existing cases within the Medit Link software, as well as start any new cases. Once you have a large list of cases, in order to easily navigate through them, you have a few different options. The first one would be to search the patient's name in the text box here. The second one would be to set a specific date or a range of dates. And the third would be able to choose a specific designation on this top bar here. I always recommend keeping it on all, that way you're filtering out every case that you have within the Medit Link software. And lastly, I want to discuss the order box. Once you've gone ahead and processed your case and ordered it to a lab, you will then see that same case show up in your order box. But rather than saying ordered, you're going to have a new set of designations up top here, where you can then keep track of the status of your scan with the actual lab. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our case box, since this is where we're going to create a new case. We're going to go in the upper right hand corner and select this big blue button that says New Case. From here, it'll prompt you to put in some patient information. I'm just going to go ahead and do a test case for the patient name. And once we've gone ahead and typed that in, you can select Register and Scan. From here, a new window is going to pop up, where for each individual case in Medit, you're always going to be having a form and a file viewer. The form is simply where you're going to fill out the work order form to tell yourself, the lab, and the software exactly what kind of restoration you're going to be scanning. And once you actually have gone and processed your data, you'll be able to see the scans in your file viewer to review and then possibly send off or export. So let's go back to the form here. And when filling out the form, you have 2 different options. The first one would be the teeth category, and the second one is going to be the arch category. The teeth category is where you can select individual or multiple teeth and set up any case type, such as a crown, bridge, onlay, inlay, etc. For our purposes, we're actually going to be selecting arch, where we can select the upper arch, the lower arch, or both. In our case, I'm going to be selecting both arches, and we're going to be setting up the case as a digital study model. Once you have your order list confirmed here, you can go ahead and press Scan in the upper right-hand corner. This will now prompt a new window to pop up, which is called your Medit Scan for Clinic. So important to remember that Medit Link is where you're going to be doing all your case management and setting up, and Medit Scan for Clinics is where you're actually going to be doing the scanning. Okay, so we can hear that sound that Medit has indicating that the scanner is connected and ready to begin scanning. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is the scanning checklist in the middle of the screen. This checklist will pop up every single time you begin a case and is there to help you improve the quality of your scan. The first one on the checklist is to avoid using any external lighting source that may be too bright, including your overhead light or the lights in the room. The second one would be to make sure that the mirror on your tip is stain and smudge free. If you do have any stains or smudges, important to get those taken off. Otherwise, you're going to negatively affect the amount of frames per second that your scanner is actually able to capture. The third one is going to be to keep your scanning area dry, meaning to reduce the amount of blood or saliva in the actual patient's mouth. And the last one would be to maintain an appropriate distance to the actual teeth, making sure that your scanner is always in focus. So once we've gone through our checklist and make sure that everything is done and correct, then you are technically ready to begin scanning. At the very top of your Medit Scan for Clinics page, you have what is called your stages. For every single case, you're always going to have a mandible, maxilla, and occlusal stage defaulted in the system. If you choose to add any additional stages, such as a pre-op, then you can go to the stage management tool, select the stage that you want to add, and confirm. So let's go ahead. We are going to select our lower arch here. Once that is highlighted in this blue color, that's now indicating that you're ready to start scanning that specific arch. A couple of important things before we start scanning. The first one would be the actual orientation in which you should hold the scanner. I always recommend holding the scanner from a pen grip from the bottom. This allows for much more dexterity when it comes to rotating the scanner in the patient's mouth. Additionally, you can easily start and stop the scanner by double tapping the touch band, which runs around the entire scanner. Aside from this, we want to make sure to put our scanner into the appropriate position before actually turning it on. This is to help prevent scanning unwanted data such as lips, cheeks, and tongue. We always recommend starting the scan on the occlusal surface of either molar. The reason we're choosing the molar and the occlusal surface is because it has much more anatomy due to the cusps and ridges compared to the anterior teeth. So once we've taken our scanner and positioned it directly over the occlusal surface of the molar, we can start our scanning process by double tapping our touch band. Immediately we can hear our scan sound come on, and we can see that some of our data is starting to get captured. For our scan path, both the upper and lower require the same scan path, which was specifically designed by Medit. For the scan path, you always want to start on the occlusal surface of your molar and scan your entire occlusal surface, incorporating an anterior tilting motion. That way you're not just picking up the incisal edge of your anteriors, but also about the top third of the buccal and lingual. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll start to implement my tilting motion once I get to about the canine. And then I'll finish out my occlusal. Once you get to the other side, you can simply rotate your scanner 40 degrees to the lingual and scan your entire lingual surface. Lastly, we just need to rotate our scanner 40 degrees to the buccal surface and scan our entire facial. Once you've completed your initial scan, you can double tap the touch band again to stop the scanner. Once we've completed our initial scan and built up our main scan data, you next want to make sure to check that you filled in all the important areas for that specific case. In order to do this, you can simply use the traditional method of manipulating the scan by using your mouse and rotating the scan to see any areas that might be missing. Additionally, you can utilize Medit's new touch interface to do the same thing. In order to do this, you have 3 different options to actually manipulate the scan. In order to change between the 3 options, you have to simply single tap the menu button below the touchpad. So the first one that we're going to have is the option to do a pan. For the pan, you can simply move the scan around the screen to your desired location. Next, we can single tap the menu button one more time to switch to our zoom option. Here, you're simply moving your finger up and down on the touchpad to zoom in and out of the model. And lastly, you can touch the menu button one more time to switch to your rotate option. Here we can rotate our model to look to see what areas have been missed, such as these interproximals that we have here. And if you want to recenter your scan in the middle of your screen, simply double tap your menu button. Okay. So once I've looked at my scan and I've noticed areas that I want to fill in, we can simply grab our scanner, position it over an area where we already have common data. The main thing that we want to do is make sure to not start the scanner in an area where you have missing data. If you were to do this, you run the risk of having some double images or incorrect stitching. So let's go ahead, we'll grab our scanner and we'll position it right over our molar one more time on the occlusal surface, and we will start our scan process by double tapping the band. You can see the scanner immediately has picked up the data, and what you'll notice is that in the bottom right hand corner of your screen you have what's actually called our live view window. This live view window is going to show scan images in real time from the camera's perspective, and we always recommend actually putting most of your attention towards that live view window, making sure that the tooth that you want scanned is directly in that box and in focus. Aside from the live view window, you're going to have an audio and visual indication to help you during scanning. For our visual indication, we have a colored box in the center of our screen. Currently, you can see that that box is a green color, meaning that our scanning and our alignment are optimal. If I was to move my scanner out of focus or to an area where the scanner can't recognize, you'll see that that colored box will actually turn red, indicating that your alignment is lost. In order to continue scanning, simply take your scanner, position it over common data as we did before, and you can continue along your scan path. For the audio indication, you'll notice that there is music playing during the scanning process. That music will be louder when scanning is optimal and on track, and then it'll actually get quieter when the scanner has lost its position. Okay, now we have a complete scan and we're ready to move on to our next arch. In order to move on to the next stage, you can either use your mouse and click on our maxilla stage, or you can simply swipe right towards the direction of the stage that you want to move to on your touchpad. You can see that now the scanner has highlighting our upper arch, letting us know that we are ready to begin scanning our upper. For our upper, we are going to be using the same exact scan pathway that we did for the lower, making sure to start on our occlusal of our molar, scanning our occlusal first with our anterior tilting, and then finishing out our occlusal to the other side. From here, we can rotate to the lingual, scan our lingual surface all the way around. And finally, rotate 40 degrees to our buccal. to complete building up our main scan data. From here, we can utilize our touch interfaces again to control our scan data and see where we may have missed any information. All right, from here, I can go ahead and place my scanner over a common area of data, start my scanner, and fill in any missing interproximal data that you may have missed on the first scan. Okay, once we captured our upper jaw, we can move on to our occlusion. I'm going to swipe right on my touchpad to move to my third stage. For our occlusion, you'll see the software will automatically bring in our upper and lower jaw. The main thing that you guys need to know here is that whenever scanning a full arch case, it's always important to capture the occlusal on both sides of the arch, as opposed to a quadrant where you only need to capture one. So at the very bottom here, we have what's called first occlusion and second occlusion. It's important to note that this does not refer to left versus right. It just means one side of the arch and then the other. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my first occlusion is highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the patient is completely biting down in a stable position. We're going to grab our scanner and position the scanner flush against the buccal surface on the molars. From here, we're going to double tap to start the scanner, and we're going to implement a zigzag motion until we hear a sound and we see our bite turn a green color. It is possible for the occlusion to be captured immediately, but we always recommend picking up at least 3 to 4 teeth on both sides. So now that we've picked up one side, we can go ahead and switch to occlusion 2 and do the same exact thing on the other side. Okay, once our scanner has optimized alignment, we can see both of our arches in relation to the bite. And we just want to make sure that this is similar to exactly what we see in the patient's mouth. Okay, once we've captured our occlusion, we are finished with all of our scanning stages. From here, we simply need to process our case by selecting the check mark on the very right-hand side where it says complete. Once we select this, we're actually going to have 3 different processing options. The first one would be to process the data as it is, meaning to not fill any holes. The middle option would be to fill in any major holes. And the third one would be to create a printable model from your scan. In this case, since we've already made sure to go back and capture all of our important data, we can go ahead and process our data as it is. You'll see that your Medit Scan for Clinics is going to save your scan and then automatically close out of the Scan for Clinics app and bring you back to Medit Link. So once our Medit Scan for Clinics app closes down and brings us back to Medit Link, you'll see that on our case, the scans will begin to go through the processing stage. During processing, essentially what's happening is the raw data is being converted to post-process data. And this process data is what you're going to then use to export STLs and move into the design stages of your cases. Once the processing is complete, you'll notice our designation will switch from processing to scan completed. And only once you see scan completed can you then go to your file viewer and view your process scans in a higher resolution as opposed to your raw data during your scanning process. Here, you can confirm that all your data is appropriate, you've captured everything you need. And once you've confirmed your scan data, you have two options. One would be to either export the data locally to your PC, or you can actually go ahead and order the case with the order button right here, where you'll then choose your partner, which is the lab you're going to be sending it to, exactly which files you want to send, and the file types. Once you confirm all those, you can press OK. This will actually send this case directly to the lab, and then it'll actually show up in your order box here, where, as mentioned previously, you'll be able to manage the status of that case. And that's pretty much it when it comes to setting up a case and scanning a full arch using the Medit i900. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and please stay tuned for more content coming shortly.